everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well, and welcome to episode 49 of my Metal Vault. If you've been watching this series for a while now, you've been supporting my channel for the last 3, 4, 5 years, even before I changed it to Jake's Metal Chat, you know this is where I will be exploring and showing you my favorite albums within heavy metal to thrash metal to death metal, black metal, doom metal, sludge metal, folk metal, you name it, all that excellent stuff. And of course, I started this series last year, and I've shown a lot of albums that people will know, a lot of albums that people don't know. If you don't know this album, then you need to be acquainted with it, because it is just excellent underground death metal, an absolute gem of an album that would have been overlooked, because a lot of albums were being released around the same time as this one. I've gone to the year of 1993 for this album, and looking at my list here, I got another one in the next episode to show you. This band, if you don't know them, check them out. If you are just a die-hard death metal maniac, you're going to know this band. And if you are a fan of death metal and you don't know this band, check them out. Get this album. This is Resurrection. They formed in Tampa, Florida. But I will get into when they formed under this name, when they split up, when they reformed, and then split up again for the final time. I have here their debut. It's the first cassette. It'll be the one of many cassettes I will be showing in this series, because I do not have this on CD yet or vinyl. But once I do, I will show what, if you know the artwork as soon as you see it, I will show that in its full glory on here. So once again, this is Resurrection. This is a 1993 debut, Embalmed Existence. Like I said, first cassette I have shown it in this series, and I have shown cassettes on my channel before. Savage death metal. I will get the artwork out, the cover out, which of course, before I get onto that, is the cassette. So a nice black cassette with the logo in silver and the album title in silver, as well as side A and B in the same manner, and re-released by Hammerheart Records, but originally released by Nuclear Blast. Here's the artwork. Everyone knows the artwork, done by Dan Seagrave, who has done artwork for so many bands, ranging from Meverick Creation to Benediction to Morbid Angel, Hypocrisy, Edge of Sanity, Warbringer, Reprisal, just so many bands. If you don't know Scott Burns, look him up. His artwork always looks absolutely freaking amazing. Also, some thank yous there from the entire band and individually, and who played on the album. And I will get into the lineup shortly as to why the drummer is not their drummer, but you know that name. But I will get into that in a minute. Show the artwork again, song titles, and here's the band themselves. You don't know this album? You need to know this album. You need to get it. Be it on cassette, be it on CD, be it on vinyl. Just get it, or wherever you listen to music. But if you want to hear it on a physical format, definitely cassette, CD, vinyl, whichever you prefer, whichever one's your preference. But insane death metal right here. But let's talk about the band. And I love this logo. Now, the band, like I said, they formed in Tampa. They formed in the year of 1989, but they're under the name Roadkill. But that was, when I looked them up, there was more on the thrash power metal side. So if you're into your thrash and power metal, I don't know if any of this stuff is on YouTube, but they only did one demo, which I'll look up in a minute after I've done this video. They were that name from 89 to 1990, and then changed it to Resurrection in 1990. split up in 1996, then reformed 9 years later in 2005. And there's a question mark as to when they actually split up, because it doesn't say there. It might say somewhere else, but it's not saying it here. And they had 2 demos out and a promo before this debut, this one hell of a monstrous debut. So the first demo from 1991, an independent release from October of 91 with 4 songs, and I know at least 2 of them, all of them have appeared on this album, but I'm pretty sure it's only just the 2. The promo EP from 1992, released by Nuclear Blast, so they would have gotten signed to Nuclear Blast around that time. And this split is with, and I mentioned this band earlier, Hypocrisy. Of course, Dan Seagrave did the artwork for their debut, Penetralia. Afflicted from Sweden on the progressive technical death metal side, like early stuff. And Dutch death metal giants Sinister. And they all have 1 song each. Of course, it's a promo, so here's 4 bands, here's their songs. You love this stuff, go support the bands. And then they did a demo, the last demo in June of 1992. And of course, 2 of the songs I know appear on this album, and that brings us to Embalmed Existence, which, if you're a death metal maniac, nutter, just diehard fan, this is one that you need. If you don't have it, if you haven't heard it, go listen to it. If you do have it, go listen to it again. It is just insane. And I'll get into all that. Of course, I mentioned Dan Seagrave did the artwork. Scott Burns engineered and produced it. Jim Morris did the mastering. There's a Mark Partor. I think I just said his last name totally wrong right now. Of course, he used to be in Iced Earth. He was the drummer for Iced Earth. And did live drumming for Sebastian Bach, but he also did stuff on this album, which I'm going to get into. Where's the name? Yeah, he assist engineered this album, as well as done stuff for Amon, Deicide, of course his own band Iced Earth, Camelot, Creator, Monstrosity, Morbid Angel, Nasty Savage, Necrophagia. This goes on, Obituary. And there's guest musicians on here as well as everyone else that's done stuff on here. David Scott did the logo for the band. Tim did the band photograph, and he's done it for many other bands as well. I'll just get his name out here. So Asheron, Atheist, Brutality, Cancer, Death, Deicide, Disincarnate, Eulogy, Epic Creation, Monstrosity, Napalm, Death, Nocturnus AD, Obituary, Resurrection, of course, Sepultura, 6 Feet Under. Of course, the list goes on, as you know. James McCann did photographs as well, so there's probably more photographs on the CD version. And of course, Jim Morris, who's done tons and tons and tons of stuff for other bands and done guest vocals on certain albums as well by bands. That's why he's done engineering for Agent Steel, Angel Corpse, another band that I'll know because there's some here I'm not too familiar with. Brutality, of course, Control Denied, Cannibal Corpse, Death, Deicide, you know, a lot of these bands you'll know. Fulci, which is a band I still need to see. Yeah, he's done a lot for a lot of bands. And who else have we got? And of course, John, who was the guitarist in this band, sadly passed away in July of 2021. Rest in peace. And like I've said before, legacy lives on. His legacy lives on here. He did the design and layout for the album, which is really cool. Now, and they had some guest musicians on here, which I'll talk about here before talking about the rest of the members and the album. Kent Smith did the piano, and he's done piano for other bands as well, such as Corner, Moist Earth, Loud Blast, Obituary. They did the sound effects for Obituary for Cause of Death, Pestilence, Testimony of the Ancients, Sepultura Arise, and of course, horns for Twisted Sisters. Love is for Suckers. So ranging from that to something that is heavy, but then something that's heavy but really extreme. So there you go. And of course, they got the narrations from tracks 1 to 7 and also 9. Mark the Storyteller, and you're going to hear a lot of that, and it just the odd narration throughout the songs, and then it just kicks into all the songs. So let's name all of these songs. Apps like this. The start of the album is just incredible. With Disembodied, of course, you get the narration, which is quite long, and then narration ends, and then it first lyric here on this is Die, and then it's just everything on here is just completely insane, like just from start to finish. First song I heard by this band is Rage Within, which is the second track, again with the narration, but then this just kicks right in, and then it slows down a bit, and then you get the vocals from, let's get the members up now, vocals by Paul. I'm not gonna try and say his last name. He did more of the raspier type of vocals, so like more on like, when I say raspy, I mean more like the German style thrash metal vocals, so like Melee and Tom Angel Whipper. You know, more like Melee and Tom basically. But he's also done guest vocals for Corner as well. So yeah, but yeah, his vocals are more on that side. There's no growling in sight like you would normally hear. I mean, Chuck didn't really do growl, so I think the one who started doing it the most, and of course talking about death metal, Cam Lee from Massacre. So, but his vocals are more in the vein of like, say, like Millet and Tom. You know, Tom from Sodom and Millet from Crater. But yeah, because when I first heard vocals like that in death metal, I thought, is this a death metal band? And then I'm listening to it more, like, doesn't matter if they're doing like harshly screamy type of vocals or growling. Doesn't matter to me. Sounds more like I said, more on the thrashier side, but of course on all the songs he just hits them out of the park. Same with the guitars, the bass, the drums, everything. Third track, the title track, Embalmed Existence, which they get the narration here. I'm only a number in that respect. You are no different, and I remember to survive means every man for himself, and it just kicks right in, because I played this at the gym earlier, that song for my workout, and made you work. Like, it speeds up and then it slows down a bit before the chorus, and then it picks up in the chorus a bit, and then just the whole album, man. The whole album, guys. And then we get Smell of Blood. Again, with more the narration. And there's actually 2 songs in here that have the same length of time. So Smell of Blood is 3 minutes and 53 seconds. Again, another just savage song from a savage album such as this. And then you get Torture Chamber clocking in at the same time. Because I know people who actually have Walkmans still, or even just bought Walkmans. I'm going to buy myself a Walkman, and I'm going to just go on my walk and have this album playing. mean, I don't care. I will, because it's a sick album, and yeah, Torture Chamber, just carrying on from Smell of Blood, and then you get Eyes of Blind, still ripping everything in half with the sick guitar riffs and the bass vocals, the drumming, and I will get on to the drummer in a bit because it was not original drummer who played on the album. Test of Fate, still continuing on that brutality that you get from the very start. Then Pure Be Damned, which you don't get a narration on, and just to double check that, no, you don't get a narration. You just get straight into a lead guitar with John, with John's lead guitars, lyrics, and then lead guitar again. And his lead work is, to me, just pure genius, just excellent stuff. And then you end it off, and it's a really good, really great ending to me for this album. A cover of War Machine by Kiss. And I've heard the 6 Feet Under version of that, but I prefer this version. It's just because I've heard the original, but then they just done it and just turned it up to like 20 or 30 or something like that. And it's just a perfect end to a savage album. Absolutely brilliant. And I did mention when you saw the band members. Well, another band member is also who passed away in 2014, Dave Scott, of course, was the bass player on here. He passed away back in January of 2014. Rest in peace. Of course, like I've said, to those who have died within metal, the legacy lives on. Charlie Haynes was the guitarist. Of course, this was the last thing he actually did before leaving the band. And the drummer, like I said, it was not the drummer that you see, which I couldn't point out which one that was, but the drummer that they got to fill in for their drummer was Alex Marquez. And if you don't know who that is, then you need to be acquainted with that man. He has done drumming for countless bands, not just death metal, but also thrash metal. Of course, the main band that I know him from, and this is the one that had Rob Barrett in on vocals and guitar, Solstice. And the debut album is just insane. Past bands. So he did play drums for Brutality at one point in 2015. And Cephalic Carnage, Demolition Hammer, Meverick Creation, because he was on the Retribution and Stillborn albums. And Stillborn came out the same year as this, 1993. Of course, this album, I'm not sure how they went about asking him before. So something like their drummer couldn't do it, but they asked him. I'm not sure. I wasn't there. And that's just like, these are like the 4 bands that I know that he's done stuff with. Of course, Righteous Pigs. He did live drumming for Righteous Pigs in 2013 before they split up for the final time. Guest stuff. Now, here's a band that everyone should know, and I need to get their album. The band Disincarnate, which was James Murphy's band, well, still James Murphy's band, because, well, I don't know what's going on with them at the moment. Hopefully someone else is coming out new, but he did play drums on their demo, Soul Erosion, and also played on the split with Gorguts. And he's also done music stuff himself. But yeah, a talented drummer all around, and one of my favorites within metal, death metal, thrash metal, just metal in general. And his drumming is excellent on this. Just savage, nasty, just intense drumming. Usually when you hear him, he's usually playing fast, but then he will slow down to like a mid-tempo, and he always keeps it on point. Because I'm trying to remember who the original drummer was. I don't think it's the drummer that they got before they split up. I need to look up who it was. It might have been Gus, or it might have been John's, because there's someone with John's last name here. I believe that's, just looking it up now. So is what actually they've had, just looking here, they've had four drummers. Oh, so we got one that was in the band from 1990 to 1992. Of course, did not appear on this album, but might have appeared on the demos. And I believe Kevin, I want to say it's Asti. So Kevin Asti, so that would be John Asti's brother. He also passed away in 2021 of cancer, sadly. Yeah. Just like, again, I've mentioned before, it sucks when someone in the metal scene dies, but the legacy lives on. Of course, John's legacy lives on this album. And it definitely shows with this album. Just have a good look at this. To any new fans of death metal and you want some more stuff, something that is just insane, savage, nasty, this is it. Just get some water in here. My throat's getting a bit dry. Oh man. Yeah, and sorry about that. I'm trying to figure out who the original drummer is for this band, but obviously for the album they had Alex Marquez. But yeah, like I said, with Alex Marquez, his drumming is just excellent, and it's excellent on this album right here. And of course, on the two Maverick Creation albums that he was on. And of course, on Solstice's first album. Like I mentioned earlier, this album would have been overlooked because obviously a lot of albums were being released around the same time. I mentioned Maverick Creation, Stillborn. And I think Breeding the Spawn by Suffocation also came out that year as well. That's why I'm putting albums from 1993. Because there's a ton of these albums out that came out that year. Going to mainly mention more on the metal side. So, I should have been more specific here. Metal albums in 1993. So, Focus by Cynic came out that year. Individual Thought Patterns by Death that year. Heartwork by Carcass. Chaos AD by Sepultura. Wolverine Blues by Entombed. Nocturnal Silence by Necrophobic. Icon by Paradise Lost. Under a Funeral Moon by Dark Throne. Covenant by Morbid Angel. Bloody Kisses by Typo Negative. The Erosion of Sanity by Gorguts. The Somberlin by Dissection. Nesbitt by Demolic, which I have shown here on this series. Gods of War by Blasphemy, of course. Screams of Anguish by Brutality. The Mighty Contract, which I have spoken about on here, by Rotting Christ, came out that year. Indecent Obscene by Dismember. Osculum Obscenum by Hypocrisy. Pure Holocaust by Immortal. Grin by Corner. The Outer Limits by Voivod. Yeah, a lot of albums would have been coming out the same year as this, and this would have just been overlooked. Probably some here would have been overlooked as well. And to name one more album, because this band just did everything, Houdini by Melvins. So this album was in competition with quite a lot of other well-known albums. But of course, if you, again, this is more to death metal fans here, you would have been just solely into death metal. I'm like, oh, what else is coming out there? So you would have found Gore Guts and Morbid Angel and Hypocrisy and Dismember. And maybe some of you would have came across this. And just to look up, yeah, Breeding the Spawn also came out in 1993, and of course by Suffocation. So this, like I said, had a lot of competition. And it deserves just the same amount of respect as the other albums as well. Because my overall conclusions, as you know, I always do these. It's heavy, savage, intense. Dare I say it, dirty? It's quite dirty sounding. The narrations in this just give it a nice, it's like a concept album basically. It's just telling a story with Mark the storyteller. So very story driven as well, I think, to me anyway. I think I've said excellent. If not, it's excellent. And that most important word that I have said about all the albums that I have talked about so far on this series, it's a timeless masterpiece. And damn right, this is a timeless masterpiece. I just pretty much what everyone just said. It's an album that everybody that loves death metal needs in their collection, be it on cassette, CD, or vinyl, or if you got on all three, then you beat me by all of it. Then it's again is excellent. It's savage, it's nasty, it's dirty sounding, it's timeless masterpiece. Absolute banger, classic, absolute classic in death metal. And Resurrection, very much an underground death metal band. This album is an absolute death metal gem. And I urge you, to all you death metal nutters out there, to get this album. This is what, I mean, there's so much more death metal that you need in your life. This is just one of many albums and many bands that you need to be aware of. I know they're not going anymore, but they deserve your attention. Pick this album up, go listen to it wherever you listen to music. But I urge you to listen on physical format such as this. But then if you're more into like streaming, then go listen to it on wherever you stream music. But I will be putting this tape on again. And once I get a Walkman myself, I don't care. I'm going to be walking around with a Walkman and this blasting in my ears, as well as the other albums that I have in this drawer right there, because there's a lot more cassettes that I will be showing in this series. Albums mainly from the 80s and 90s that are on cassette. Of course, there's a lot of new albums on cassette now. But get this album. You need it. It's one more time. It's heavy. It's excellent. It's nasty. Totally. I haven't said that. I've said it's savage, but it's totally savage. Timeless masterpiece. And an absolute death metal gem. Resurrection. and Embalmed Existence. Excellent, excellent old school death metal right here. And that has been another episode of my Metal Vault. There are so many more gems like this that I will be showing in this series. The next one I will be showing is definitely a gem that you do need in your collection, and a band that you do need. I mean, if you've heard the name of this band, then you'll know. Same with this band here. But if you're not familiar with them, I'll get you started. As well as anyone else that shows primarily old school death metal, and that's the death metal I prefer. And there's a lot of new bands I like as well that are very old school sounding. Newer bands, but with that old school sound. And just an absolute gem. So thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, I have more episodes planned. It's just getting the albums I want to talk about, putting them in my book, doing a list. And before I end it here, actually, 9th of June, I will be doing a live stream chat with Ken of Ken's Death Metal Crypt. I mentioned that in my last one, but as I'm talking about a death metal band here, let's talk about the man who shows a lot of death metal. As you know, he is closing his channel in August of this year. So after 10 years of showing us just tons and tons and tons of death metal, he will be closing his channel down, but I will be getting him on here, so ask him some questions. If you feel like you want to ask him some questions, it's a live stream chat, so get him in the box. And it sucks that he's not going to be on here anymore. I'll probably go into more detail in a different video, but I might just do it here. But, you know, he has shown me more death metal bands that I wasn't totally aware of. And I'm pretty sure Resurrection has appeared on his channel. I'm going to have another look and see if they actually have. But I think he's got one of their demos. I'm not entirely sure, but he's got demos from other bands. And the first thing he ever released, and I mentioned Death earlier, he's got that Mutilation demo on the channel. So yeah, once again, 9th of June. So that's next month. 7 p.m. UK time. So that's like 1 o'clock for him. We will be discussing what he's going to be doing to end the channel, and what any bands and labels that he recommends, and just death metal in general. And once again, to get back to Resurrection, go get this album. You will not be disappointed. Resurrection, Embalmed Existence. As always, don't forget to like this video, share it around, comment down below if you have heard this album, what did you think of it? And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with everything that I got coming up on the channel. I'm off to London tomorrow to see a bunch of death metal bands then at Necropolis Volume 2. So if anyone I know who's going, I know 2 friends who are going, but if anyone else I know that is going, I will see you there tomorrow. Or when this video is up, already it'll be the next day. So anyway, I've been Jacob, Jake's Metal Chat. Keep that banner of metal held high. Thank you very much for tuning in. And I will see you all again in another episode of my Metal Vault.